while frigid wind howling across the cliff. A pale figure comes out in desolate plain, carrying its dusty cloak and broken nail. Its hollow eyes divulge no readable emotion. After standing beside the towering cliff, it jumps off. Right after then, we still have no idea why it jumped off. Maybe just like cluster suicides of Arctic lemmings in 1868. Oh, it's still alive. The game flow of Hollow Knight starts since then. For those who explore completely on their own, it's hard to understand what the game is exactly talking about. Who is the knight? Who is the Hollow Knight? Why do residents attack us? And why do Arctic lemmings commit cluster suicides? Well, that's not important, which is no effect level to my murder, insanity, robbery, and massacre. Hollow Knight is famous for its opaque and fragmented storytelling, since revealing out the enigmas through great quantity of debris is fucking difficult. Obviously, these intricate expressions confuse a lot of players. Luckily, there are people like me that are attracted to the lore and headed down to study the lore as an academy, which is Hollogy. An appropriate methodology is essential to study Hollogy. To make our analysis more convincing, we must first be confirmed of which conclusions to accept. So, where do the most reliable information come from? Text and images straight from Hollow Knight, official settings in interviews conducted by Team Cherry, or conclusions completely equivalent to the information mentioned above. This information, which can hardly be rebuked, is defined as zeroth thesis, or ZT. Okay. So now imagine you are Detective Hornet and on the way of investigating the missing of Leg Eater, you observe one of his claw in divine stand. So referring to Leg Eater's statement upon seeing an unbreakable charm, it is incontrovertible that Leg Eater once came to meet Divine. This is definitely a zero thesis. While making a plausible reasoning upon ZT, we obtain a conclusion as first thesis, or FT. If Miss Hornet has read a basic insect physiology, she will be aware of the phenomena occurring in some species that femina devour male after mating. Thus, it is reasonable to suspect that Divine devoured Leg Eater after their sexual intercourse, according to the stump. Divine is convicted of forcible rape and murdering of Leg Eater afterwards. And such a judgment is paradigm of FT. Then what if Hornet inspects the information from the night, proving that all three unbreakable charms are formed after Divine swallowed the fragile ones? If Hornet further suspects that Divine will excrete an unbreakable Leg Eater, the conclusion based on FT, though sounds not so convincing, is defined as second thesis. From the given evidence, it is apparent that reliability drops sharply when logical hierarchy increases. To make an analogy, ZTs are like bow, which is fundamental and unshakable. FTs are like branches, still strong enough to be convincing. While STs are like leaves, we can hardly ensure its authenticity. Here comes to the question: shall we construct our theory completely with ZT and FT in order to ensure its reliability? Definitely not. Not only we are exhibiting basic structure of Hollogy, but also explain the lore animatedly. If Team Cherry had provided plenty of evidence that allow us to interpret the lore with just DTs and FTs, anyone could understand what Hollow Knight is talking about. For this reason, applying STs are reasonable in this series of video, and sometimes even inevitable. Just like an elegant tree cannot consist of only bough and branches without leaves. We demand audiences to judge our opinion based on their own personal comprehension. Considering diversity and authenticity of storytelling, we shall take advantage of ZTs and FTs as much as possible in this section, but making extra quotation when STs or higher of these are unavoidable in order to avoid meaningless disputations. In this video, we are just going to show an outline to a blank player, so maybe if you have already understood the basics of Hollow Knight plot, just feel free to skip this episode. The first NPC we meet in the game is Elderbug. He tells us a theme that runs through the game, the infection. It's a sticky air that fills the place. Creatures turn mad and travelers are robbed of their own memories. Well, that's why the most bugs attack us. Meanwhile, we also get to know that there used to be a great kingdom beneath the town called the Hallownest. However, due to a spreading plague, the kingdom faded, and now it's nothing but the poisonous toad. Nevertheless, the ruin of Hallownest still attract countless adventurers to explore, such as Squirrel, the NPC that we can meet in the Black Egg Temple in the very early game, claiming himself to be attracted by so many tales full of wonders and horrors. Well, he came to Hallownest for Homer, Nosferatu, and Jack Torrance. Wow, cool. We might consider the knight as a common traveler who seeks dreams and wealth in the very beginning, but as the plot progresses, we gradually realize that the knight seems to have other missions. In order to give an explanation, we have to start with the heart of infection. Players who have achieved the ending No More Dreams will naturally find out that the source of plague is the forgotten god of light, Radiance. So why on earth did she spread the plague? Radiance was the founder of Moth tribe. Moths once put their faith in Radiance and drained ultimate joy through their religion. Meanwhile, another higher being, Pale King, broke the balance. He constructed a great realm, organized civilized order, and provided invaluable mind, enlightened bugs from Prime and Savage. The Moth tribe also betrayed Radiance and turned to Pale King for protection. However, Radiance was decisive of revenge, spreading her belief and plague among Hallownest. Pale King, of course, took action to defeat the plague and rescue Hallownest by using the vessel. Oh, not this one. In the Abyss, we can find many shells similar to the Knight. The floating shades are called siblings according to the journal, indicating that the Knight was one of them. When we enter Void Heart plot, we got to know that Pale King created the vessels by the power of himself and Void to seal the plague. According to Pale King's visage, vessels has no mind to think, no will to break, and no voice to cry sufferings, which are the perfect containers to seal a plague that mainly influences mind. While climbing Abyss, a pure vessel was chosen. Pale King bring it up in the White Palace by saw blades, finally trained it to its prime form. The final boss in the game, the Hollow Knight. With the help of the three dreamers, the Hollow Knight successfully sealed the plague, and through its sacrifice, Hallownest lasts eternal. Although Pale King claimed that the Hallownest will last eternal, the plague finally broke through the seal and leaked out, which is the first thing that the players could see in the game. The residents of Hallownest turned to Pale King hoping that he could expel the plague like before. They were shocked to find that their beloved king, along with his palace, disappeared mysteriously. Maybe he fled to escape the plague, or maybe he had to solve some hidden crisis for Hallownest.